Latanza, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, me too. So I always start off with an introduction for anyone who's meeting you for the first time. In your own words, let people know who is Latanza Warren.
First of all, my name is Latanza, and I'm a value coach, and I help others who have been in or currently in narcissistic, toxic relationships, and I help them to heal, but not just heal, to elevate their value. Because a lot of times when you go through that, you lose your value. So I want people to not regain it, but elevate it.
And you know, the word narcissist is a very trendy word nowadays. It's something that we're seeing a lot online, but it's a real life thing that a lot of us have experienced. I didn't realize in my last relationship, which did become physically abusive, that he was a narcissist until after I got out of it and after I started doing research. And I know you've been in not one, but two different relationships dealing with a narcissist that we're going to get into a little bit later. First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to come on to have this conversation. I think it's super important for us to highlight these uncomfortable topics that people are pretty much suffering in silence through. Me and you both, with our platforms, we're committed to taking away the shame and the stigma around being in these very toxic and abusive types of relationships. So I just want to say thank you for using your voice and your platform to help other people, men and women who are going through something really traumatic.
It is. It's very traumatic. A lot of people don't talk about it because of the shame.
Absolutely. So let's go back to baby Latanza, your childhood, your adolescence. And since we are going to be talking about relationships mainly in this episode, I would love for you to also highlight how was the relationship between your parents and how did that affect you in childhood, later on into adulthood?
Growing up with my father, who was in my life till around 12, and after that I saw him maybe 2 more times. But growing up, it was very toxic. My mom went through abuse weekly, if not daily. This is what we saw. As children, you want to defend your mom, but we couldn't because we were little. And the thought started coming of what can I do to him to free her? And that shouldn't be with the child. And so I grew up with toxicity, and I grew up wanting love from a father that I couldn't have love from. My mom finally made a choice to get out of it. We escaped because he threatened to kill us that day. So we had to fly here. I grew up in Texas. So we flew back to where I live now. Then he followed us with more toxicity to be with my grandparents, which we moved to. I started seeing love. I started seeing a different side, but the hurt and pain was still there. And so you think growing up that you are okay, but you're not okay, because it actually follows you because you haven't healed from something that was traumatic in your life. And so I have 2 siblings, my brother and my sister. I think it hit my brother even harder. He was the baby.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest. My sister went through a lot with it. He would hit us, but I think she got the worst of it. So we all ended up in some abusive relationships, all of us. And so it was hard because even my children, I have 2 girls. And so I didn't want them to relive what I lived through. And so with their father, I found that we were being toxic to them. So I had to get out of that relationship with their father after I was with him for like 22 years. I thought that, I finally found the man of my dreams.
You know, it's interesting. I always have every guest talk about childhood because a lot of the things that we go through during that time period, it definitely follows us into adulthood, right?
It does.
And what's interesting to hear your story, because I've had a lot of people come on who also talked about abusive relationships. Your story and my story is so different, yet we still found ourselves in these really toxic situations.
Growing up, I always wanted love. And I didn't know exactly what love looked like. I saw some adults that came into my life that I thought loved their spouses, but then I would see them with someone else. So what does love really look like? Is this the normality that I'm supposed to have in a relationship for myself? And so I had to start looking at that, because your childhood, if you don't heal from that trauma, you will take it to your adult. And a lot of times we don't think so. It could be, in a relationship, even toward your children. And that's why it's so important to heal.
That generational trauma is a real thing, and breaking that cycle, it's important to have these conversations and to also do the work so that we don't continue these cycles. For me, my parents, they're still together. They've been together for 40 something years, high school sweethearts, never abusive towards one another, common arguments now and then, but there was never any disrespect. And yet my upbringing, totally different from yours, I still found myself in this type of abusive relationship. I come from a very beautiful home, but love and affection is not a thing. And I think that's common a lot in our communities of color, right?
Yeah. A lot of times you don't find that embracing or even saying, I love you to their children, because a lot of times that didn't happen. But that's something that I made sure that I wanted to do for my kids. I wanted to change some things. Like I said, if you're not healed from that, you can't completely be who you need to be, even for your children. And that's something that I found out too, because what my children saw in me and their father's relationship, I kind of started seeing it with them. That was like, I had to do something.
Yeah. So let's talk about those relationships now that we're into adulthood. I want you to talk about, how was those relationships? How did you find yourself in them?
With their father, I met him in high school. This man, he was older than me and he loved me. So, he was already living his life as an adult. I hadn't even graduated high school.
How much older was he?
Almost 5 years older. So, I got in a relationship with him and he did not know how to love me. And I did not know what love really was. We had that toxicity going on and I thought that we could make it through it, but we did not. So I just had to leave the situation because it got physical and a whole lot of other things happened. So I had to leave it. And so I met this guy who I thought was just the perfect guy. I mean, he seemed like the perfect guy. He did everything for me, made me feel like a queen, treated me like a queen, flowers almost every day, told me he loved me every day. I mean, just the perfect life. On the outside, had everything everybody would want. But I started seeing things with him. And I really didn't understand what was going on until I understood what was going on. We have been married around 3 years. And I checked his phone and I heard a voicemail saying, when are you coming home? And I found out that he had moved in with a female in Texas. So he was living two lives. He would come here a couple days a week and he would stay there the rest of the time. And he told me that his schedule changed and all this. So I was devastated. When I say devastated, I was devastated to the point where I just did not even want to live, because this is a man that I truly love. And I thought that he truly loved me. Things happened and he did come and try to whatever, but I didn't know the person that came back because I didn't know he was a narcissist. He played it good. Come to find out that this wasn't the first female. He had multiple females, the drugs. I mean, he was living a whole life that I had nothing. I didn't know any of this. He left after that to move back in with her. And I had to pick my life up and I didn't know how. And at that point, I just did not want to live. I had my daughters, I had their kids, but I wasn't thinking that right then. And I did try to take my life. Thankfully, God sent my daughter. She kicked the door in and she found me laying there. And I lost 50 pounds in 1 month. I wasn't eating. I wasn't taking care of myself anymore. People started worrying about me. And I had to make a choice, either live or die. Was I going to let this kill me or was I going to live? I started getting threats from the person that he was with. So I ended up moving out of the wonderful home that we had bought and I moved into where I am now. And I started my life over. He called me and said, could he come home 4 months later? I had started my life over. And because I still loved him, because I was still married to him, I said, okay. And when he came back, I was not the same person. I didn't look the same. I was skin and bones. He, said how much he missed me and how much he wanted to be with me. And he'll never do that again. I later found out that he was running for his life, basically from Texas, that he needed to come home.
Oh my gosh, there's so many similarities. Oh my God. Please continue, because I feel like I'm watching my own relationship.
And only a year later, I found out that he was sleeping with one of his coworkers. After I found that out, he looked like anger. How dare you find out what I'm doing to you? I felt the anger. I even put something in my purse to protect myself in case he did come at me. He left and did not come back. I saw him in a store. He started screaming in the store, telling the cashier to call the police on me. And I was doing nothing to him. The female that he was with, he told me why he was with her, because she did drugs and I didn't. So that was the reason. And so I had to take our time for myself after that. I took this man back. And so after I restarted my life, he re-injured me. And so everything that I went through as a child, everything that I went through with my children's father, now this man, so every man that I truly love hurt me. And so how was I going to heal from all of this? And so I started my healing journey after him.
There's so much to unpack with what you just said. There's so many similarities when I'm thinking about the last relationship that I was in that did get physically abusive. He is in prison for what he did to me, which I thank God every day for that. Living a double life thing is so real. There were so many things that he hid from me. And when I would try to get him to open up, he wouldn't. I found out that he was hiding children that he had from me that I didn't even know about. There was a lot of drugs too. There was alcohol abuse. There was cheating. There was lying. There was manipulating. All of these things happen in these relationships. So I want to know for you to tell my audience, what would you say are some red flags that someone needs to look out for in regards to someone being a narcissist?
They don't take accountability. That's one thing that I have found with him, and the other one that I'm going to talk about. They do not take accountability. They try to portray you as the person in the wrong. And when you approach them and talk to them, look, what's going on? Why did you do this to me? They're going to get angry because how dare you come to them with what they did to you? They don't want to actually talk about it because they never do anything to you in their minds. Their deception is their truth. That is their truth. And so the red flags are they don't take accountability. That's one of the biggest things. You're going to catch them in lies. You know, people lie. I know people lie, but a narcissist will lie all the time.
It's like a pathological liar.
They are. It was one time that he worked in the oil field and he worked on heavy machines. And it was one time that he did not have his ring. And I said, what happened to your ring? He said, oh, the machine rolled on top of me and jaked the ring off of me and rolled down the hill and it almost killed me. He took the ring off. He did not want to wear the ring because he was single while married. If a person would just sit there and just start thinking about things, you're going to find out that, yeah, this is something wrong with this. The last narcissist that I was with was even worse.
Tell me about it.
Oh my God.
Am I ready for this? Do I need to
I don't know if you're ready for this one.
Oh God. Oh God. Okay. I'm all ears.
So I healed from that narcissist. I was in such a good place financially. That's another thing. A narcissist will drain you financially because after him, I had to rebuild myself and my finances. So he came into my life. Oh my God. He started lying the first time I saw him. I didn't know that was a lie. He said he was looking for his queen, not knowing that he had told a slew of other women the same thing. I met him. He told me how many children he had, which was a lie. He said he had 4, he had 6, 4 baby mamas. I was like, okay. He said he was staying with his mom because she was ill and he needed to help take care of her. But he moved in with me not even a week later. And then when I met his mom, she was okay. So I was confused about that. They would start out with the love bombing. They would love you to make you feel like this is the kind of love you always wanted. He told me he loved me within the first week. This is one thing that I made the mistake of. I told him too much too soon. A narcissist will feed on what you tell them and use it against you later. I had a nice home, paying my bills, own my own businesses, had 2 nice cars. And the other car, he always wanted that kind of car. And that's when he started really just being in love with me. And so I didn't catch that at first. And so as it was going, it was okay. Then I started seeing things, I started seeing messages. I started getting phone calls and inboxes from females. You need to talk to your man. Why he talking to me? He should be talking to him. He wrote a female in my car. He thought that was okay. He said, I'm not doing nothing wrong. After that, he knew that I was sliding away. I met him in November. By February, I was just ready to just pull away because it starts to drain you. So I was like, I can't do this. April of that next year, he proposed. I already knew that he was doing this. He did it in front of my family. So I felt obligated to say yes. 3 months later, I found out he was still married. He proposed to me. I had to get his divorce. I had to pay for it. I paid for his divorce.
What?
Yeah, I paid for the divorce. I paid for our license. He wanted a wedding because he loved to show. A narcissist loves for the attention to be on them. What better way to get that attention than to have this wonderful big wedding? And so it was an outdoor wedding. I was out of a lot of money. We went on a honeymoon that I paid for. Things were going good, having a nice time. We got back 3 days later. He went to work. He left at 3, 10 minutes down the road. And I saw a message come. This is one thing too. You be so confused. Your mind starts going. So I was following his messages. And one of his children's moms texted him and said the door is open. I got in my car at 3 something in the morning.
You pulled up?
I pulled up.
Oh my goodness.
Why are you going to her house at 3 o'clock in the morning? Of course, he had an excuse. I was ready to pack his stuff up. I didn't want to even turn in a marriage license. I never changed my name to his name. I did it for social media purposes only, but that is not my last name. If you see me on social media, that is not my last name. That's another thing. A narcissist knows who you are, and he knew that I would forgive him. He knew that I didn't like confrontation. He knew that I was this loving Christian woman, and he knew what I had. I said, okay, I'm going to try this. And so I cried out to the wrong person, which was to one of his relatives. Give it a chance. Don't leave him. The narcissist family is working with them, not you. And so I kept going, and he was a good actor. He would cry with no tears. I never saw that. Every time I find out about a female, he would call his mom and he would play cry. And one particular time that he called her, she asked to speak to me. She cussed me out. I had no right to look in his phone. It just escalated from there. The females kept going. Other things happened to me. This is another thing people don't understand. It affects you in every area of your life. When I say he was worse than the other one, my body went through trauma. I would wake up with pain every day. I didn't know what was going on. He was nasty. The females that he was with were nasty. He cheated over 40 times. And he got so bold, so he just didn't really care. And he would just tell me, I knew when a no one came because he would tell me, I just want you happy. So if you want me to leave, or he'll threaten to leave to get his way. That's another thing this narcissist did. He would always threaten something to get his way because he knew that I didn't want him to leave. And I would apologize for what he did. It just kept escalating until I started losing so much weight. My face went in. I got so tiny. And I would hate to wake up because immediately when I woke up, I felt the pain. I would want to just sleep because I don't want to feel that pain anymore. I got used to the pain, the physical pain, the emotional pain, every pain. It's so much in this. His best friend is his sister, and she fights for him. We had something going on one night that I found out about another female, and he called her, and he had been lying to his family saying I was crazy. He told them that I was cheating on him. He told them that I was keeping him from his children. When I'm trying to tell you, we can't go there all the time because it's 5 hours away. I can't go all the time. You're using my car. And so he told them all these lies. So he started feeding his sister lies. So she came over here and she was ready to fight me over what he did to me. Police were called, everything. And I was like, I can't live like this. So I went in the house and I talked to him. He was sitting on one couch and I was sitting on the other. And I said, look, whatever I've done to you, I'm sorry. What did I do to you? And this is what he told me. It's about time you apologize. I said, is there anything that you want to say? He said, no. And he went and slept on the couch to punish me for exposing him. He would do that often. Or he would stay up till like 3 o'clock in the morning so he couldn't go to bed with me. As far as affection and all that, that was basically non-existent. And I found out why he was with other women. Cheating is more than just in the flesh. He was on the phone. He was having sex on the phone. It was cheating everywhere. And so what broke it was our anniversary was that July. I paid for a trip for us to go to Florida because this is a trip that he always told me he'd never been to Florida. And I found out that was a lie. So I planned this wonderful trip to Florida. And as we were driving, we had a nice conversation and his phone kept ringing. I said, you gonna answer it? No, rung again. He finally answered. And he said, didn't I tell you I was going out of town? I heard her voice. I looked out the window and I told myself, I can't do this. It was killing me, literally killing me. Some things happened and he told me, what's wrong with you? He said, I'm not gonna keep driving with somebody with an attitude. Now he just got there hanging up with a female. But he said that he's not going to keep being with me with an attitude. A lot of times we're afraid of losing somebody. I never had him. So I got back. That was that July. This went on maybe 3 more months. The car that he so loved, he basically tore it up. All of a sudden had to go out of town an hour away to do a yard that was non-existent. Come to find out it was a female. I was like, I can't do this. So I started preparing myself. Actually, I started preparing 2 years prior financially because I knew that this man was not going to stay in my life. I already knew this. The night that it happened was that October. Now, this is after I bought 2 trucks for him in my name. I bought some lawn equipment that's in my name. So I sold my car, the car that he loves so much. And I told him the night before, I just got tired of it. It was a babe magnet. This is the car that he wrote females in it. And he thought it was funny. So I was like, I'm selling a car. And he's like, no, you're not selling my car. And he didn't even know that I had paid the car off. I sold the car. He came home. I kept his daughter every day. And he was getting her. And I said, I sold the car and I got this. I had a new vehicle. He said, I know you didn't sell my car. I said, yeah, I did. I told you. He left. Told his family I disrespected him. How dare I sell his car and that I'm a liar? Oh, he told them a whole lot of stuff about me that wasn't true. So he came back hours later, tore up the house, getting his stuff. Mind you, when he came here, he had 5 shirts and 2 pair of jeans and maybe 3 pair of shoes. He left with a wardrobe because as a dually wife, I made sure he had. He tore up stuff off the wall. I recorded the whole thing. And it was something about that night that God gave me peace. I didn't scream. I just told him, I said, you need help packing? He cussed me out many times that night. And he had told people I took his car and I'm not going to take his truck and I'm not going to take the lawn equipment. I was like, whatever. So he was calling his people, so I called mine because I'm tired of you calling your people because I'm not going to be here by myself. And they made sure that he got out without hitting me or anything. So he left scared. That's another thing about a narcissist. They have this persona of boldness and I'm all that. But when it comes down to it, they don't know who they are. They don't have self-esteem at all. And that's why they have to try to break you down to make you look bad. So he left. I had to start picking up the pieces. He even told me I had to, stay in contact with him because he had a truck that still had a note on it. And he's told me he was going to pay it. I ended up having to pay the truck off myself, that I'm not driving. I'm not driving that truck. It's in my name, driving illegally right now. So I had to pick those pieces up. And then this is what he told me. I thought you would beg me to stay again. I was like, wow, I wasn't going to beg you this time. And I can tell people, as hard as it is to go through that, it's harder to let it go. I thought, he out, I'm going to be good, I'm fine. But then the text messages started. I love you.
Because they want that power and that control back.
They still need you.
Exactly.
And they refuse to let the control off of you. I love you. I want to work on it.
I'm going to change.
I'm going to change. And all the while, I flew to Florida for a meeting. And while I was on that meeting, he was out with a female. And I said, I thought you wanted to work on this, but you're out with a female. But she paid for it. She didn't pay for it. You did. Now, you admitted that you were out with her. It was still trying to torment me. Mm-hmm. Because if he would have never texted me all those text messages saying that he wanted to work on it and all this, your healing process can start a lot sooner. But because they're trying to hold on to you, it's not you that they want. It's the control that they want. How dare you think that you're going to be out of my sight? How dare you think you're going to go to somebody else until I allow you to? It took me about 6 months to really, really, really say, This is what I told him the last time that I saw him. I said, you know what? You're treating me like a side piece. I'm not even that. And that's when God started really showing me my worth. And that's why I talk to people about that now. And I let him go and I said, I can't do this no more. I can't believe the lies when you got a list of females this long. And so he got mad. Of course, he went and told more lies. The gaslighting is going to get intense after you finally let go. I mean, that's when they're going to go all in. That he's with now, who he was with before he left. Of course, he told her all kind of things about me, which he did the same thing to me about his exes.
You're the crazy ex-girlfriend. That's one thing that my ex-boyfriend did so much in the beginning. He hated her. She was horrible. She was evil. And then he was cheating on me with her. And then he wanted us to be together like a polygamous couple.
Wow. I've heard that. Like him, he told me his exes did him so wrong. Yep. The one that he was with before me, she never paid her bills. Kind of found out this man never gave her money to pay bills. And I completely understand that. I had to slap my card to him because he didn't have money. So I had to really, really move on from that. And I started healing from that. And when I started healing, my life changed. When I started healing, every pain that I had left. And I hear that from so many people now that when the narcissist left, the pain in their body left.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I've said this before on other podcasts when I talk about my relationship. Towards the end, before the physical abuse happened, but it was very emotionally and verbally abusive, every single day I would wake up with that nauseous, anxious feeling in my body. And I was like, why am I feeling this way? And it wasn't until he was gone, even though, the ending was very traumatic. I literally escaped from him. It got so violent. But once he was out of my life, it was like this peace that came over me.
Yes, I totally understand what you're talking about. And it's a peace that you can't even explain to people. Because, at first I was so worried about what people would say and what they were saying, because of the lies that he was telling people, because a narcissist would use both female and male. They'll use both genders to get what they need. And he did just that. The family is not exempt from gaslighting. I can tell you that too. I even asked him, I was like, why do you cheat? He blamed it on his brothers. It was always deflecting on somebody else instead of myself.
No accountability at all.
They have no accountability. Oh my God. And one person told me, well, all narcissists don't cheat. No, they don't. All narcissists do not cheat. One day I was hit with an intellectual narcissist. And I was like, what is that? They do not cheat. Very critical. Narcissists are very critical of you. If you've never been through it, to even understand what you go through, because people be like, oh, I wouldn't allow nobody to cheat on me like that. You don't understand the mindset that you're in. The mindset that you're in during that time that you're going through with that narcissist, it's like being trapped in a prison, because a narcissistic relationship is soulish. It hits you in your soul. It tries to rob you of that, and it tries to rob you of your life. I knew that if I didn't finally let this man go, that it was going to kill me physically. Mentally, it was trying to destroy me. So the physical was coming. I don't tell nobody to stay or go, but I tell you, don't lose yourself, because I was losing myself and somebody that didn't even care about me.
And that's why I love having this type of conversation, because when you're in these types of relationships that are abusive, whether it's physical or emotional, spiritual, financial, whatever, abuse period, you feel so alone in it. You feel like no one can relate, no one understands. There's a lot of isolation too. You're embarrassed, there's shame, there's all these things. So for us to be sitting here and talking about our lived experiences, I know it's going to help someone who may not really know, oh my God, this sounds familiar. So I want to ask you, being that you've done the healing and a lot of the work, for someone who's in the very beginning, give me like the top 3 steps that one needs to take in order to start healing from these narcissist abusive relationships.
Make a choice that you're going to heal, because a lot of times we say we want to heal, but we haven't made that choice yet. And so you need to make a choice. Another thing you need to do is to let go. When you make that choice, you need to let go. That means cut ties. Don't look at the text message. They will try to get to you through family, fake accounts.
My ex, who's in prison, he befriended a fellow inmate, had that inmate's girlfriend call me to be like, hey, he's checking on you. And I was like, you know what? I got to change my number. He's still trying with the no contact order in place too. It's crazy what they will do.
The extent that they will go to for him to do what he did, I don't think that he even thought that I would divorce him. And when he saw those papers, he was livid. Now you have to choose another supply. So he chose one. That's your life. And that's another thing we have to do, because a lot of times I heard one girl, I was mentoring her, and she said, I feel sorry for him. You cannot feel sorry for them, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to feel sorry for them so that they can gain back control over you. And once they gain that control over you, you think everything's going to be good. What he's going to do is punish you for even trying to leave him. It's so dangerous to be with this kind of person, because they always want control. And when control is not theirs, they're going to do whatever they need to do to gain that control back. And you have to gain the control back. Another thing that you cannot do is give them a response. Don't give them a response. And I know the thing that really helped me was journaling. When you journal every day, you're writing down what you're going through. You're just filling out everything that you need. Counseling also is a good thing to do when going through this, because a lot of people feel alone, but they don't know who they can talk to. And some are afraid to talk to the people that are around them, because a lot of people won't understand, girl, why would you go there? So now you feel judged. Now you feel like, why would I even talk to anybody when nobody is believing me anyway? And so that's when a lot of people go through a downward spiral and depression. That's why I said counseling is a very good thing.
That's what I did too. When I came back home, I knew I couldn't heal from this on my own, because it was something that completely broke me. I was broken and I knew I needed professional help. So I went to therapy. I went to group therapy. I hired 2 life coaches. Like, I did a lot of work. And I think it's important for us, especially people of color, we don't need to take on that burden of doing it alone. And it's okay to be vulnerable and ask for help.
It's okay to not be okay. You don't want to stay in that place of not being okay. A lot of us paint that picture here, but inside we're tore up.
Yep.
Inside we're broken. Inside we don't know what to do. And that's where a lot of people miss it. That, okay, I can hide this. A lot of people are good at hiding it, but a lot of people are not good at hiding it and dealing with it. You have to get yourself free from that. It's been 3 years for me. And when I say this has been the best 3 years, I said, you have to also look back and say, okay, I know what they did to me. I know everything they did to me. What is it that I need to do different so I won't attract that person no more? That's what I had to do for myself. And one thing that, like, if I go on a date or something, I want to know about you. They know nothing about me, nothing. Only if they see my Facebook. I don't tell a lot anymore, because when you tell so much, it's like, this is what a narcissist does when you're talking to them. They're taking notes. Okay, she likes flowers. She has this. She has that. Oh, I can really get this from her. Oh, she's soft-hearted, so I can really get over on her. Okay, this is my next victim.
They create like a blueprint of what you tell them.
They do.
Yeah, and I appreciate you going so far into detail, because I know it's not easy. It's still very fresh. 3 years is very premature. Mine is a little over 2 years. I appreciate you for really going there. And there was something I saw on your TikTok, because, you know, when I have guests come on, I do my research. I want to know about them. And there was a TikTok that you put, and I was like, oh, we got to talk about this. You talked about for us, the people who have dealt with the abuse, like sometimes we feel like we might need closure, we might miss them, we might want to reconcile. What would you say to someone who's feeling these feelings?
The only closure you need is to move on. Because the one thing you're not going to get from them is closure. You're going to miss them, because I can tell people it is normal to miss them, because you actually love somebody that didn't love you. You were actually invested in somebody that wasn't totally invested in you, because a narcissist cannot completely love you. They don't love like you do. They love what you can do for them, not you. If you want closure, you're not going to get it. You have to move on without them. You have to move on without them telling you, I'm sorry, without them explaining why they left. You have to move on, because if you don't, you're going to stay stuck while they're with somebody else. That will drive you. I know who he's with. I know when they got together, but now it doesn't even bother me. Why? Because I'm free. Once you free yourself from that, I'm telling you, it's the best feeling in the world. I stopped wanting closure for something I would never get closure from. I had to close the door myself. And when you close the door yourself, they're going to try to push that door open, because now they see you're not texting them, you're not calling them, you're not following them on social media, you're not driving by the house, I did it, you're not doing any of this kind of stuff. And now they're like, okay, what I need to do to gain this person back? Nothing, because you cannot gain back what you lost. And you cannot gain back what I refuse to give you. Don't even do that to yourself, because that's torment. You will be sitting at home in a dark room, crying your eyes out, saying, I need closure. I miss him. I miss her. I need them. No, you need yourself. Don't lose yourself after somebody walks out your life, because they were not meant to stay anyway, but God has somebody better for you coming.
Amen. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. I would think it's really important to do that no contact, to do like the hard stop. If you're serious about really moving on from this relationship, leaving a little window open, it's just going to allow them to continue taking control over you. I feel like sometimes, especially as women, like we need to take responsibility for the own suffering that we allow in our lives. Yeah. Not that we accept or think that the abuse was okay, but it gets to the point it's like, sis, come on.
Yeah, you have to stop allowing, because it's not that you deserved it. It's not that they should have done that to you, but we have to stand up for ourselves and draw boundaries and stick with them. And it's not okay to lie to me. It's not okay to cheat on me. It's not okay. Yes, we're called to forgive, but baby, I'll forgive you while you're gone. It's so easy for me now when I see who you truly are, because that's what I wait on. I wait on to see who this person truly is. And when I see who you truly are, you're not for me. I went through my head, I shouldn't have never gave him a chance. I went into so much debt with this person. I went into over $10,000 in credit card debt, plus a vehicle that I wasn't driving. All this kind of stuff. You know, what was I going to do? I had to trust and believe that I was going to get through it. And I did.
So I want to ask you, think of all the things that you've been through in life, the relationships, the healing. What would you say is the most important lesson you have learned about yourself?
The most important thing I learned about myself is to love me and value me more than anything else, because when I value me, I won't allow anybody to devalue me. That's the most important thing. I was allowing somebody to devalue me just to keep them.
Oh, you are full of a lot of gems. I couldn't agree with you more. People really don't understand until they're in it. And just by listening to your story, there were so many similarities that I saw in my own relationship. And I just appreciate you sharing it, because it's making me feel less alone. And I know it's going to help someone else listening to be like, you know what? I'm not the only one. I'm not the crazy one. Hopefully it'll give them the push to make that next decision in their own life.
I hope it does.
Yes.
I hope it helps somebody to get out while they can, because the longer you stay, the worse it gets.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, so I want to know, you're on the Watch Us Thrive podcast. So tell me your definition of thriving.
Thriving is enjoying life. Now people looking at me and they see how much I love life, because I wasn't living life. I wasn't thriving. I was going through life. But now I live life. I live again. That to me is thriving, when you are finally living your life. It is so peaceful. I'm telling you, I can sit in my house all day, look at TV, laugh at the TV. I'm good. One of my exes asked me, don't you get lonely? For what? Why? Single does not mean lonely. I can wait on the right one. I don't want to go through that ever again. And that's why I try to speak out now so that other people won't continue to go through it or go in it.
Oh, I love that so much. That's the whole purpose behind my podcast, highlighting people who have been able to turn that pain and that trauma into their purpose and to be able to help others.
It's rewarding. I know a couple of times I wanted to give up and be like, ain't nobody really listening. And every time I do that, somebody will write me, inbox me. One lady, I'll never forget what she wrote me. She was about to commit suicide and she ran across my video and she said, it saved my life. I don't care if it's just one person watching my video.
Yes.
That right there is worth it.
Oh my God, please don't ever stop, because you were helping more people than you know by sharing your testimony. I'm so glad you came on. Think back to your childhood self, whatever age pops up for you. Being the woman that you are today with all the lived experience that you've gone through, what is one piece of advice you would tell her?
This is not normal, that you need to heal, and that life is worth living, because I didn't think life was worth living then, and that you are loved, even when you don't feel loved by your father. And I would tell her that, and I would give her the biggest hug and let her know how much I love her. And I would let her know that there is love, the right kind of love. You just have to go for it.
That's powerful. And the right kind of love that you can have with yourself, right?
Yes.
Doesn't always need to be tied to someone else, to a relationship, to a friendship. That self-love can be so healing and so powerful. And I think that's the one that we tend to shy away from the most.
Because if you don't love yourself, you cannot truly love someone else.
RuPaul says that all the time. If you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? And I get an amen.
Amen, because you can't. Because I tell people, that's why you have to heal. Because you cannot truly love somebody else, not heal from the other person. Because all you're going to do is bring that into the next relationship. Treat them as if they're that person, because now you're actually making them a punching bag, because you're getting back at them for what they did to you.
And that was the cycle that I was on for so long before that last relationship. I was like the habitual dater, relationship person, never took time to be alone. In this season that I'm in now, it's over 2 years, single, not dating, completely celibate, focusing on Leanne. Yes. And I'm loving it. That's the thing too. Like, yeah, there's some moments that I'm like, oh man, I can feel lonely, but I just love my company so much.
Yeah. You don't want nobody to disturb that peace.
No.
I tell people it's worth more than money. There is no amount of money that you can give me to disturb my peace.
Because I've lived it and I never want to go back there ever again. Let me ask you this next question. Might be a little triggering, but we have these uncomfortable conversations. If you had the opportunity to have the people who hurt you right in front of your face, being the woman that you are today, what is one thing you would tell them?
Oh, I will tell my father, I will tell him I forgive you because of what I know now about him. I will tell him, if I would have known that you were sick mentally, I would have got you help. And I would tell my children's father, it wasn't your fault. And I've actually told him this. We've actually had a conversation. I would tell the first narcissist that I was with, because I haven't had that conversation with him and will never have that conversation with him. But I would tell him, I did love you, but I loved me enough to let you go. And I would tell this last narcissist, Jesus, I would tell him, well, I pray you get healed, because you've hurt a lot of people. And no matter if you take accountability for what you did to me or not, I've moved on, I'm healed, I'm whole, and I'm living my life. So it doesn't matter what you say or not say anymore. It doesn't matter what the lies you spread on me anymore, because I'm living my best life.
Come on, she's living her best life. I love that. Such a beautiful answer. And, you know, you're just giving a lot of hope to people that there is beauty after the pain. You can live a very whole life, even if you're on your own, you know, and to be able to have that mentality towards the people that hurt you, like that definitely shows the type of woman that you are. So I just want to give you your flowers. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Final question. This is a good one, okay? In the far future, when you're no longer on this living earth, someone needs to sit down and write about you. What do you want them to say?
Ooh, I want them to say, you know, this woman came from being so broken to an overcomer, that she not only went through, but she came out. I want them to see that when I talked about value, that I really had value within myself, and that they could see that. I want them to see the millions of people's lives that were changed, not because of me, but because of the purpose that God gave me. I want them to see that nothing's too hard, and you cannot, no matter what you go through, if you are willing to make it out, if you're willing to make that choice to come out, you can. And I want them to always remember the quote that I I have, and that is your value is too valuable not to come out.
I mean, that's the perfect way to end this conversation. I'm so sad that we're at the end, but I know people are going to love to hear more about you, follow you, work with you. So please plug in your social media, your websites, your offerings, whatever you have for my audience so we can continue to follow your journey.
Well, on Facebook, Instagram is Value Coach Latanza. TikTok, it is Inspiring Coach. And website is, which I'm getting revamped, but it's Value Coach Latanza.
I love that so much. I'm going to link them all in the episode show notes. Latanza, you are a ray of light. You are out here healing. You are living in your purpose. And I'm so glad that we connected. Please don't ever stop. Continue spreading your voice, your message, your testimony, because you are doing God's work with your testimony. Latanza, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.